Good evening, and if I could ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may take your seats. Good evening, and welcome to the Tuckahoe Police Department's annual award ceremony, where we honor the men and women of the department that went above and beyond to exhibit diligence, intuition, and skill during the performance of their routine duties, both in 2019 and 2020. There's no better time to acknowledge the efforts of our officers than that of Police Week, a time to reflect and appreciate the services provided by police officers in Tuckahoe and across the nation. The risk each and every one of them take when putting on the uniform. It's been 2 years since we hosted our last award ceremony. Since then, we've battled through a global health pandemic and had to face the challenges that stem from social injustice movements and police reform. It goes without saying that law enforcement has become more scrutinized, analyzed, and dissected than ever before. Nevertheless, police officers like the ones that stand before you this evening are dedicated to protecting the citizens they serve, and more importantly, displaying the professionalism and integrity this uniform expects and deserves. It is with great appreciation and honor that Chief Costanzo, Lieutenant Rhoda, and myself stand before you tonight to highlight the fine work of our officers and share their accolades with friends, family, and the Tuckahoe community. This evening, the Tuckahoe Police Department will recognize and commend the performance of officers based on the following categories and criteria. These events have been reviewed and voted on by an awards committee of their peers and supervisors. The Exceptional Merit Award, the Meritorious Police Duty Award, the Excellent Police Duty Certificate, the Certificate of Commendation, and the Officer Recognition Award of the Year. Before we get started, I'd like to ask Chief John Costanzo to say a few words.
Thank you, Lieutenant, and welcome everybody. This is a very proud evening for the Tuckahoe Police Department, and as the Lieutenant said, pushed back 1 year because of the COVID virus. And as we look back at 2020 and we look at all the difficulties that our nation faced in our community and our police departments, one facing COVID and all that the pandemic brought. And when I look and I see all of the friends and family that are here today, you bore the brunt of that as well, not just the men and women in blue. You know, as we were exposed to the virus and worried about being exposed to the virus, we were worried, as well as every one of our friends and family, about bringing the virus home to our loved ones. And the fear and the anxiety that many of the police officers felt were felt by our family as well. So getting through a very difficult year could not have been done without the support and love of our family. So all the families that are here tonight, I thank you for that support. I also thank our village, our leaders, our elected officials, and each and every one of our residents who helped our department get through a difficult year, not only on dealing with the COVID virus, but all of the unrest following the George Floyd killing. And as many communities across our nation and many police departments unfortunately came under much criticism and unrest, our small village stood amongst very few in keeping our closeness, keeping our support. And that support was unwavering throughout. As I said last night at a village board meeting, we had so many people stop in and offer support, bring baked goods or drop off food, but even just a nod or a wave on the street, letting us know that we had the support of our village, meant so much to our police officers. So to everybody in this village, we say thank you. I think one of the most important reasons why we didn't have that unrest or that feeling of being abandoned by our community is because of the trust that we work on building in our community every single day. There's a quote that I came upon very recently, and I think it embodies our police department and how our police officers act. And the quote is, "Trust is in fact earned in the smallest of moments." It's by an author, Brene Brown. And I think in the smallest of moments, our police officers exhibit how they earn trust every single day by treating people with respect and dignity, having empathy for people who are in distress, and just being a friendly face to some people who, particularly with the virus, were isolated from others. And so when we build that trust every single day, it came back tenfold to us. And the reward was that we had the support throughout this past year, which was one of the most difficult. So again, thank you to our community. I say to our officers all the time, building that trust in that moment, and it could be little things, just stopping to talk to a senior citizen at a park bench, or having a catch with a young person who's out, out in the street, or shooting a basket with them, or just having a moment of friendliness. And when we talk about literally the hundreds of encounters that we have with the public every single year, whether it be a traffic stop that probably for every single patrol officer here is in excess of 100, 150 a year, on top of all the calls for services that we have, or just, crossing a pedestrian across the street. There are hundreds and hundreds of encounters with the public. And I was at a class very recently, and the instructor brought out is that we may not remember all of those encounters, but the people that we have dealt with will remember every moment of it. And that's what our police officers exemplify every single day, treating people with kindness, empathy, and dignity. So I say tonight is a very special night because we recognize the officers through their intelligence, through their perseverance, and through their bravery, solved crimes, and in some cases saved lives. And they're going to get their awards tonight. But I say thank you to every single member of our department who every day exemplifies all that is good in law enforcement. So thank you very much. So not a good way to start off with the new boss by forgetting to introduce her. But it is my honor to introduce the Honorable Omaira Andino, Mayor of the Village of Tuckahoe.
Don't worry, you had help to save you. Since I first moved to Tuckahoe in 2001, and in the course of my tenure as village trustee and now as mayor, I have always been consistently impressed with the outstanding work of the Tuckahoe Police Department. The officers and the staff at all levels of the department show exemplary service and commitment to our community, and I attribute a lot of that to you, Chief, that you have cultivated a culture of respect and affection between community and police, so thank you. From handling tense and difficult situations with grace and compassion, to connecting with members of the community on a very personal level, our officers show day in and day out what it means to be partners with the community. A true measure of the community's success can be seen in its police department. How a department comes together with its community demonstrates just how in touch and connected its residents and police are with one another. I've watched this police department both mourn and celebrate with our community. I've seen them show extraordinary care and concern for families across the village and neighboring municipalities, from the youngest of our residents, just by shooting a ball with them, to our eldest, showing them kindness and bringing meals at times. Today we recognize members of the police department for outstanding service. These members have gone above and beyond what is expected and performed their work with poise and forethought. And I'm grateful for all of the work that the members of this department have done this year and previous years. And I'm pleased to be here with you all to honor these men and women with distinction and appreciation. Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed now with the events. I'd like to call up Officer Ramirez, Officer Piasta. Officer Ramirez is unavailable this evening. On March 23rd, 2019, at approximately 8 p.m., Officer Francisco Ramirez was on a routine patrol when he observed a car with out-of-state plates parked illegally on Columbus Avenue. As Pio Ramirez approached the car, the driver exited the vehicle. Officer Ramirez confronted him and immediately smelled a strong odor of marijuana emanating from the vehicle. The car was occupied by 2 other males at the time. Pio Ramirez intervened. Officer Piasta was requested to assist with the investigation. Both officers began to interview both the driver and passengers of the vehicle. Numerous marijuana cigarettes were visible spread across the vehicle's center console. Each occupant of the vehicle was frisked and would reveal additional bags of marijuana as well as prescription pills later to be identified as Percocets. One of the passengers in the vehicle possessed 5 debit cards registered to various unknown people. We would later determine they were all stolen. All 3 men were arrested. A search of the vehicle incident to arrest provided an assortment of bank checks, and again, all from various victims. Pio Ramirez and Pio Piasta continued their investigation inside and were able to ascertain that the men worked for a larger crime entity that steals and sells drugs for profit. Additionally, the vehicle used by the men was a rental vehicle that was never returned to the rental company and was used for transportation purposes for the criminal behavior. For their acts of performance of routine police duties in an outstanding and efficient manner, Pio Ramirez and Pio Piasta are awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call Detective Stephen Leone forward. In the fall of 2019, Tuckahoe Police was contacted by the director of a large children's daycare facility in the village to begin documenting a significant case of online fraud taking place with many staff members' personal banking accounts. The manager stated that this was not the first time they'd experienced widespread fraud. Earlier in the year, upwards of 14 staff members began to see unauthorized purchases on their credit cards. Due to the amount of staff members affected, management believed the security server and facility Wi-Fi was compromised, so passwords were changed and security information was reset. By November of 2019, staff members began to see fraudulent credit card charges starting up again. And now the child care facility feared it may be a staff member to blame. Detective Stephen Leone began a case and started to review all the illegal charges on the staff members' credit cards. This was a lengthy and tedious task due to the amount of victims and the frequency of these transactions. Detective Leone noticed a lot of merchandise purchased illegally online that had a shipping address to residences in the city of Yonkers. Additionally, he found transactions for a limo company for services rendered in Yonkers. Detective Leone followed the local lead and was able to get the phone recording of the female who made the limo reservations. Sure enough, the voice recording was immediately recognized by staff members of the child care facility. Detective Leone's thorough and in-depth investigation enabled him to charge a staff member of the child care facility with grand larceny, a felony, as well as possession of stolen property. For his persistence and attention to detail and performance of routine police duties in an astounding and efficient manner, Detective Stephen Leone is awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer Madden, Officer Tacito, and Sergeant James Kennedy. Officer Madden is away on vacation. He will not be joining us. On July 20th, 2019, at approximately 10:40 p.m., Officer Brian Madden was on routine patrol when he observed an out-of-state vehicle traveling on Main Street without operable brake lamps. A traffic stop was conducted, and the operator identified himself by means of an Ohio state license. A DMV inquiry was requested and found that the operator's driving privileges had been suspended within the state of New York. Officer Madden continued to interview the operator, and he appeared nervous. A passenger was also present in the vehicle, and both occupants weren't forthcoming with answers that Officer Madden had into his questions. Pio Kennedy and Pio Tacito were assigned to assist with the investigation. The operator was asked to exit the vehicle and to be searched and sent to arrest. Inside his pockets, Pio Madden found smoking paraphernalia as well as a plastic vial and powdered substance believed to be narcotics. Upon interviewing the driver, separated from the passengers, officers were informed that the driver placed hallucinogenic mushrooms inside the purse of the female passenger. Sergeant Kennedy and Officer Tacito searched the passenger's bag, but the drugs were no longer there. Officers began to search the area where the passenger had been standing, and sure enough, the bag of narcotics was located behind the retaining wall just a few feet away. Upon reviewing officers' body cameras, video recordings were able to capture the passenger throwing an object in the direction of the retaining wall. Both parties were arrested and presented with felony charges of criminal possession of narcotics as well as tampering with evidence. For their acts of performance of routine police duties in an outstanding and efficient manner, Officer Madden, Officer Tacito, and Sergeant Kennedy are awarded the Department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer Piasta, Officer Solano, who is not with us this evening, Sergeant Batista, Detective Pinto, and Detective Leone. On August 12, 2019, the Tuckahoe Police Department arrested a 47-year-old male for multiple criminal possession of weapon charges. The arrest resulted from an investigation into a report that the defendant had made threats to harm his estranged wife, a Tuckahoe resident, as well as the family. Officer Piasta and Officer Solano responded to Growler's Beer Bistro on Main Street, where he was found to be illegally in possession of a loaded Glock semi-automatic handgun. The man was taken into custody without incident. A subsequent search of his vehicle led to the recovery of an extensive list of weapons, which included, but are not limited to, 5 assault rifles with fully loaded high-capacity magazines, 3 handguns, 29 additional loaded high-capacity magazines, ballistic armor, face masks, and handcuffs. Detective Sergeant Batista and Detectives Pinto and Leone worked closely with the Westchester County District Attorney's Office to obtain search warrants for the defendant's known residences in Mount Pleasant, New York, as well as Great Neck, New York. The searches yielded another large cache of assault rifles, shotguns, handguns, smoke grenades, and armor. For their acts of outstanding police duty intelligently performed, demonstrating special faithfulness and performance of duty, Officer Piasta and Officer Solano are awarded the Department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. And for their acts of performance of routine police duties in an outstanding and efficient manner, Detective Sergeant Batista, Detective Pinto, and Detective Leone are awarded the Department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Sergeant Pinto, Officer Zach Leone, Officer Ramirez, who is not with us this evening, Sergeant Batista, Detective Stephen Leone, and Detective Pinto. Welcome back. Over the course of 2019 and 2020, the Tuckahoe Police Department received multiple complaints from female residents who reported a suspicious male peeking into their windows or were alerted by security cameras of a male walking around the exterior of their home. In all the incidences, the male involved would always leave prior to the police arrival. These type of allegations were very similar to a case our agency investigated in 2018 regarding a peeping Tom. While officers had a strong feeling the perpetrator involved in these new allegations would likely be the same from 2018, the Tuckahoe police officers and detectives would be tasked with reviewing a significant amount of video surveillance footage to link the evidence. In February of 2019, the Tuckahoe police successfully arrested a Tuckahoe resident and charged him with trespassing and stalking. The arrest came after investigating officers would match the clothing of the suspect seen on security cameras the night of the crime to the same clothing observed during an undercover surveillance operation. An interrogation would follow, and the male would eventually admit to his actions. In March of 2020, charges were once again lodged against the same individual after complaints were received from a family living on Wallace Street who were advised by a neighbor that they kept seeing a creepy man walking around the perimeter of their home. Once again, neighboring security cameras gave investigating officers evidence to bring the habitual offender into police headquarters to be interviewed, and he would once again confess to his actions. For their thoroughness, patience, and attention to detail, Sergeant Pinto, Sergeant Batista, Detective Leone, Detective Pinto, and Officer Ramirez are awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Certificate. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Sergeant Santiago, Sergeant Kennedy, Sergeant Batista, Officer Costa, Officer Valencia, and Officer Harris, who I don't believe is with us. In recent years, Westchester County communities in particular has seen a significant uptick in car break-ins and larcenies from open vehicles. The village of Tuckahoe has seen their fair share of these crimes as well. Our department has made a priority to notify the community and remind all of our residents as to the importance of locking their vehicles and not to leave valuables inside the car. We have been vocal on our social media platforms and even posted signage throughout the village. Despite our efforts, we continue to battle this criminal activity quite frequently, and many times the offenders go undetected. Over the course of the last 2 years, the officers who stand before you were successful in catching suspects in the act of committing these types of crimes. Sergeant Santiago and Officer Valencia were involved in a foot pursuit with 2 males on Sagamore Road in May of 2019 that led to felony criminal possession of stolen property charges. Sergeant Kennedy and Officer Harris located a suspicious male on Terrace Place in August of 2020 that turned up a large bag full of stolen property. And in December of 2020, Sergeant Batista and Officer Costa detained 1 of 3 fleeing males on Lawrence Avenue. They impounded the car being used to transport the suspects, which was filled with various stolen merchandise. In addition to chasing down these offenders, officers often review ring cameras and residential video surveillance cameras in the area to bolster the case and further incriminate the individuals involved. These types of crimes are easy to prevent, but hard to detect. We acknowledge the work of these 6 police officers tonight for their keen observation skills and quick actions during the course of routine police duties. For Sergeant Santiago, Sergeant Kennedy, Sergeant Batista, Officer Costa, Officer Valencia, and Officer Harris all will be awarded the Excellent Police Duty Certificate. Congratulations. Jokey. I'd like to call up Sergeant Batista, Detective Pinto, Detective Leone, Officer Costa, Who's next? On January 29th, 2020, at approximately 8 p.m., the Tuckahoe Police Department received a 911 call from a resident on Parkview Drive stating he hears a man outside his home screaming for help. Sergeant Aubrey, Officer Costa, Officer Leone assigned to the location. Responding officers advised there appeared to be a man that was struck by a vehicle and was seriously injured lying in the roadway on Columbus Avenue. Further, the offending vehicle was not on scene. Tuckahoe officers requested evac and immediately began medically treating the aided. Officers were able to ascertain from the injured party that a red SUV drove down Parkview Place and did not stop at the stop sign at the intersection of Columbus Avenue. He was walking across the street at the time and he was struck. The car then drove north on Columbus Avenue. Sergeant Batista responded in order to determine if any video surveillance in the area had existed. Although it appeared that there wasn't any in the residential area, Sergeant Batista was aware of a local business on Columbus Avenue that did have a camera and perhaps would be of some assistance. The pedestrian struck would be transported to a trauma center for medical care. In the days following, Tuckahoe detectives had spent an extensive amount of time sorting through various security surveillance at various commercial businesses in the Crestwood section of Tuckahoe, as well as interview any potential witnesses that may have seen the red SUV in any capacity. Further, they were hopeful for a license plate in order to further identify the operator. Detectives would later interview the pedestrian struck at the hospital days following the event, and he stated that he remembered walking past a police car blocks before the accident location. This turned out to be a huge break, as the police car in-car camera records constantly and perhaps may have picked up a visual of the offending vehicle passing by. By comparing various camera angles from local businesses as well as video saved from the in-car camera, detectives were able to piece together the license plate of the red Land Rover. Additionally, they were able to show all accurate timelines of the vehicle traveling through the village, which would directly coincide with the time of the accident. Detectives would respond to the home of the vehicle owner located in Eastchester. Conversations would reveal that the teenage daughter was driving the red Land Rover the night of the accident, but she stated that she never struck a pedestrian. A search warrant was executed in order to take the red SUV and have it further analyzed. A diagnostic check of the vehicle's black box put the vehicle at the scene of the accident, matching the timelines that the detectives were able to provide. After a week-long investigation, charges were lodged, and the operator of the red Land Rover was arrested for leaving the scene of a motor vehicle accident involving serious injuries, a Class E felony. For their acts of performance of routine police duties in an outstanding and efficient manner, Officer Costa is awarded the Department's Excellent Police Duty Award. For their acts of outstanding police duty, intelligently performed, demonstrating special faithfulness and performance of duty, Detective Sergeant Batista, Detective Pinto, and Detective Leone are awarded the Department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Sergeant James Kennedy, Officer Stephen McCann, Sergeant Batista, and Detective Pinto. On April 26, 2020, at approximately 1:30 p.m., Desk Officer Stephen McCann received a call from a woman stating her son, who was a Tuckahoe resident, wrote her an email that morning indicating he planned to commit suicide. She further advised her son's phone had been turned off and there was no way to contact him. Tuckahoe police responded to the man's apartment, but nobody would answer. With the assistance of the Eastchester Fire Department, first responders entered through the apartment window. However, nobody was home. Officer McCann would keep in touch with the mother throughout his shift, noting common places her son would frequent, as well as friends and family he may speak with, in order to find some way to contact the man. Hours passed, and eventually Pio McCann determined that the man's phone was finally turned back on. Officer McCann would now be relieved by Sergeant Kennedy, who would coordinate efforts with the family and the police response. Sergeant Batista and Detective Pinto were advised of the situation. Due to the nature and concern of the man's well-being, detectives contacted his cell phone carrier to ping the phone in an attempt to gain GPS coordinates. Results from the cell phone showed that the man was traveling back and forth from Manhattan to Brooklyn. Sergeant Batista and Detective Pinto would make contact with multiple NYPD precincts whose jurisdiction covered where the suicidal man appeared to be traveling. Additionally, the Tuckahoe detectives were able to keep in close contact with the gentleman's ex-girlfriend, whom he was actively texting throughout the evening and continued to express his intention to take his own life. Tuckahoe detectives would forward pictures of the suicidal man to the NYPD, who had units actively searching for him. The cell phone ping continued on a 15-minute cycle, narrowing the suicidal man's location between the two city boroughs that bordered and was connected by the Manhattan Bridge. Sergeant Batista kept the NYPD in close contact with the immediate GPS locations. Finally, officers from Manhattan's 5th Precinct would walk the Manhattan Bridge and locate the suicidal man pacing back and forth by the edge of the railing. He was safely taken into custody and transported to a local hospital for treatment. For their acts of performance of routine police duties in an outstanding and efficient manner, which ultimately may have helped save someone's life, Sergeant Batista, Detective Pinto, Sergeant Kennedy, and Officer McCann are awarded the department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer Piasta, Officer Zach Leone. On August 2nd, 2020, at approximately 7 p.m., the Tuckahoe Police received a transferred 911 call from the New York State Police advising a Tuckahoe resident is reporting a possible home invasion as an intruder entered their home and was physically assaulting one of their family members. Officer Piasta and Officer Leone immediately responded to the residents and were met outside by a family member saying that the intruder was attacking their father inside the home. Both Piasta and Leone entered the home and observed the homeowner on the ground fighting off the attacker on the 2nd floor. A scuffle ensued and the man refused to comply with the police. Officer Piasta deployed his taser in order to gain control of the suspect and take him into custody. An investigation of the incident determined that the intruder was severely emotionally unstable and entered the Tuckahoe's home because, as he stated, their dog told me to do so. For their exceptionally quick actions and performance within a crisis situation, Officers Zach Leone and Officer Evan Piasta are awarded the department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer McCann and Officer Coughlin, who was unable to join us this evening. On September 28th, 2020, at approximately 11 p.m., the Tuckahoe Police Department received a call from a concerned family member of a resident from 100 Columbus Avenue stating her nephew was going through an emotional crisis and wanted to commit suicide. Officer McCann and Officer Coughlin began responding to the location as a second call was received from another family member stating the individual in crisis has left the apartment and may be going up to the roof of the 10th floor apartment complex to jump off. Officer McCann and Officer Coughlin quickly responded to the roof and located the gentleman pacing back and forth. Both officers could see he was emotionally distraught. They began calmly speaking to the man in order to build a rapport and convince him to come back to a safer location and further talk about what was making him so upset. Both Officer McCann and Officer Coughlin successfully persuaded the gentleman to retreat back to the stairwell where they could maintain a safe environment to tend to the gentleman in crisis and allow other medical staff to intervene and provide further treatment. For their exceptionally quick actions and performance within a crisis situation, Officer Stephen McCann and Officer Daniel Coughlin are awarded the department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. Steve, come on back. Officer McCann, Officer Piasta, Officer Zach Leone, Detective Pinto, Detective Leone, and Sergeant Batista. In the afternoon on October 6, 2020, the Tuckahoe Police Department was contacted by the hotel manager of the Spring Hill Suites on Marbledale Road and advised that a member of the cleaning staff had just found a large sum of cash and a gun inside the closet within one of the guest rooms. Sergeant Batista, Detectives Leone, and Detective Pinto would respond. Tuckahoe detectives would secure the scene, apply for a necessary search warrant, take investigative photos, and begin interviewing hotel staff. The firearm was confirmed to be stolen. The firearm was stolen, later confirmed to be stolen, a loaded semi-automatic pistol, and the cash was later accounted in the amount of $30,000. After speaking with the hotel management staff, Tuckahoe detectives were able to gain information on the guests who rented the room. Security surveillance was able to provide some of the still photos of the individuals that are linked to the room, as well as the vehicles that were being used by the guests of the facility. There appeared to be multiple men accessing the room throughout the stay. Additionally, one of the men extended the stay just hours prior, so there was good reason to believe that someone would be returning to the room. Officer Piasta, Officer Leone, and Officer McCann were assigned to the hotel and given a strategic assignment throughout the facility in order to maintain safety and still have a visual on any incoming guests, both in the parking lot and within inside the hotel. At 9 p.m., Officers Leone, Piasta, and McCann observed one of the individuals entering the hotel lobby and quickly took him into custody. A search incident to arrest produced bottles of illegal prescription drugs as well as an additional $10,000 in cash. For their acts of performance of routine police duties in an outstanding and efficient manner, Officer Leone, Officer McCann, and Officer Piasta, as well as Sergeant Batista, Detective Pinto, and Detective Leone, are awarded the Department's Excellent Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer Zach Leone, Officer Piasta, Officer McCann, and Detective Leone. On October 12th, 2020, at approximately 6:30 p.m., Officer Zach Leone was on routine patrol when he observed a Toyota Corolla traveling on Marbledale Road without any license plates. Officer Leone could see what appeared to be a temporary plate taped to the rear window. However, it was folded over and not legible. Officer Leone conducted a traffic stop and began interviewing the driver. The vehicle operator was unable to provide a license, but rather show an employment ID card. Officers McCann and Piasta were detailed to assist. Officers on scene began to question the operator as to the vehicle's registration and who owned the car. A DMV inquiry responded with negative results, no documentation of the car on file. While interviewing the vehicle operator, officers observed small bags of marijuana around the center console that appeared to be predominantly used and/or empty. Upon being questioned about the marijuana, the driver admitted to possessing another 2 ounces of marijuana under the passenger seat. The investigation continued and the driver gave verbal consent for officers to search him and the vehicle. The driver would empty his pockets and reveal a very large stack of cash, which he immediately stated was not his. Inside the vehicle was a large bag that contained additional smaller bags of marijuana. At this time, the driver was placed into custody. While processing the defendant in headquarters, the cash was counted and determined to be nearly $11,000. When questioned why he had such a large amount of cash on his person and where it had come from, the defendant's story was very inconsistent and extremely suspicious. At one point, he stated that the money was from a friend that was a guest at the hotel here in the village. This heightened officers' suspicion due to the trend of criminal behavior that seemed to be connected with guests coming from the hotel. The defendant was processed and released, but various property was collected and held as evidence. This included the large amount of cash, as well as miscellaneous credit cards and a variety of bank checks. Detective Leone was assigned the case and tasked with scrutinizing the various suspicious pieces of evidence. Following a lengthy investigation, Detective Leone was able to determine that the defendant was part of an elaborate nationwide scheme to defraud, where criminals would contact victims posing as a publishing clearinghouse and claim that the person had won upwards of $100,000. They would further convince these victims to send money orders in the amount of thousands of dollars to upfront the cost of the prize processing. In the end, many victims lose thousands of dollars and the suspects cash in. Detective Leone was able to add additional felony charges to the case based on his thorough investigation. For their acts of performance of routine police duties in an outstanding and efficient manner, Officers Leone, Mccain, and Piasta are awarded the Department's Excellent Police Duty Award. And for his acts of outstanding police duty, intelligently performed, demonstrating special faithfulness and performance of duty, Detective Stephen Leone is awarded the Department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer Ramirez, who is not with us this evening, and Officer Tacito. On October 28th, 2020, at approximately 2 p.m., the Tuckahoe Police Desk received an alert from the license plate reader on Fisher Avenue of a stolen vehicle traveling in that area. Officer Ramirez and Officer Tacito were notified of the alerts, as well as a description of the vehicle, and they would be canvassing the area. Minutes later, Officer Ramirez observed the stolen vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed down Columbus Avenue. Officer Ramirez activated his emergency lights and sirens in an attempt to stop the vehicle. The stolen vehicle refused to stop, and a pursuit ensued throughout various streets in the south side of the village. Due to the potential risk of innocent civilians being injured caused by the chase, the pursuit was terminated. Shortly thereafter, a resident on Washington Street contacted the police department to report an unattended suspicious vehicle. Officer Ramirez and Tacito responded to Washington Street and determined the suspicious auto complaint was indeed the stolen vehicle they were pursuing just prior. The vehicle was currently unoccupied. However, moments later, Officer Ramirez and Officer Tacito observed the male while walking behind 13 Washington Street. The male sees both officers and begins to run. A brief foot pursuit ensues, and Officer Ramirez and Tacito chase the male around some of the Housing Authority property until he finally is cornered in an alley with no escape route. The male was safely taken into custody, and a search subsequent to arrest provided the car keys to the stolen vehicle. For their outstanding acts intelligently performed, demonstrating special faithfulness and performance of duty, Officer Ramirez and Officer Tacito are awarded the Department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer Zach Leone and Officer Peter Costa. On November 8th, 2020, at approximately 5:30 p.m., Officer Zach Leone was on routine patrol traveling on Main Street when he observed the vehicle without a license plate affixed to the front bumper. A traffic stop was initiated. The vehicle began to slow as if it were to be pulling over, and then rapidly drove off, trying to flee from the police. A pursuit ensued, and Officer Leone communicated the directions that they were traveling. The fleeing vehicle eventually turned up Lake Avenue and followed the roads towards Consulate Drive. However, this leads to condominiums and a dead end. Officer Costa was able to join Officer Leone and strategically place their patrol cars in a location that would prevent the vehicle from eluding the police. The suspect's vehicle then turned onto the Parkway Oval ball field, looking for an escape route, and eventually jumped the sidewalks leading to Bronx Street. Officer Leone and Officer Costa forced the vehicle to turn down River Street, which again was another dead end. The suspect's vehicle crashed into two parked cars attempting to flee, but was no longer able to do so. A felony car stop was conducted by Officer Leone and Costa, and the driver was taken into custody and charged with possession of stolen property. The vehicle being driven was indeed stolen, and the one license plate affixed to the stolen car turned out to be taken by the defendant off of his grandmother's car and used to avoid police detection. For their acts of outstanding duty intelligently performed, demonstrating special faithfulness and performance of duty, Officer Leone and Officer Costa are awarded the department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd like to call up Officer McCann, and Officer Coughlin is not able to join us this evening. On November 15th, 2020, at approximately 8:15 p.m., our agency was informed by the New York State Police that they were receiving calls from vehicle operators traveling on the Bronx River Parkway stating that there appeared to be a man about to jump off the bridge on Tuckahoe Road, which overlooks the parkway. Officer McCann and Officer Coughlin were dispatched to assist. Upon arrival, both officers confirmed there was a male that appeared to be in distress and was now sitting on the ledge of the bridge with his feet hanging over the side of the parkway. Both McCann and Coughlin tried to speak with the gentleman, but he seemed somewhat uncooperative and stated if officers approached any closer, he would jump. Due to the nature of the circumstances and the potential risk to vehicles and traffic down below, the Westchester County Police responded and would shut down the parkway traffic. Neighboring Yonkers Police would also respond to assist with a coordinated effort. While additional resources were being brought in to maintain a safe scene, Officer McCann and Officer Coughlin would continue to engage in conversation with the person in crisis. Over time, more positive interactions occurred, and the gentleman did agree to slide over on the bridge from the midspan to a lesser heightened position. As the conversations continued, the man in crisis appeared to turn around as if he may push himself off the ledge and drop below. Officer McCann and Officer Coughlin, with the assistance of Yonkers Police and the Westchester County ESU, grabbed the gentleman and safely pulled him back from the ledge. For their exceptionally quick actions and performance within a crisis situation, Officers McCann and Daniel Coughlin are awarded the department's Meritorious Police Duty Award. Congratulations. I'd now like to call up Lieutenant Larry Rhoda to present two more awards.
Good evening, everybody. I have the next 15 awards that'll go by quick. All right, we're going to do the 2020 Unit Citation Award first. The 2020 Tuckahoe Police Unit Citation Award goes to the Social Media Technology Unit. The unit was created in 2017, and since its inception, has made over 250 posts and announcements. Sergeant James Kennedy, assisted by Pio Stephen McCann, are responsible for the posts and the content design as a tool to push out pertinent information to our residents and followers via Facebook and Instagram. In addition to their social media posting, both Sergeant Kennedy and Pio McCann have assisted in creating the recent recruitment video, along with other PowerPoint presentations. Both Sergeant Kennedy and Pio McCann work a lot behind the scenes to capture and create images and video for our posts. Oftentimes, they are directed to create a post for quick messages out to the public and are always there ready to help, even while off duty. Congratulations, Sergeant James Kennedy and Pio McCann. Please come up. Now for the 2019 Officer of the Year, please come up, Officer Ashley Tacito. So unfortunately, the 2019 Tuckahoe Police Officer of the Year Award was given to Ashley, but because of COVID last year, we weren't able to give the recognition she deserves for such an accomplishment. Pio Tacito has been with the department since 2014. She is born and raised in the village and graduated from Eastchester High School. Pio Tacito is a dedicated police officer who comes to work every day with a smile on her face, looking to help the citizens in any way she can. She continuously strives to enhance her career through training and development. Pio Tacito is a New York State DCJS certified youth officer. She's a member of the bicycle unit. She's a member of the traffic safety unit. And she's a liaison to the domestic violence unit. She also attends various elite training throughout the year in her career, such as the FBI Officer Survival School and the yearly New York Women in Law Enforcement conferences. And I got to tell you, standing up here, and I field trained Ashley, it's very rewarding to see you get the Officer of the Year in 2019. Congratulations. P.O. Stephen Mccain, please come up for the 20th time. The 2020 Officer of the Year is P.O. Stephen Mccain. P.O. Mccain has been a police officer with the village for almost 5 years. He's an active police officer within the department. P.O. Mccain always has a positive attitude at work and with his day-to-day interactions with the public. P.O. Mccain strives to make himself better throughout training and advancement courses. P.O. Mccain attends community events on a volunteer basis and is always there to give a helping hand. P.O. Mccain is part of the bicycle unit. He's also part of the Westchester County Rapid Response Team. And he's also been the treasurer, which is a volunteer position for the Tuckahoe Police Organization Union for the past 2 years. He's also assisted in making the recent police recruitment video as various PowerPoint presentations as well. Thank you for your dedicated hard work, Stephen, and congratulations. Okay, everyone, that wraps up the ceremony. We'd like everybody to join us outside for refreshments. We thank all of you very much for coming tonight. It's been a long ceremony, a hot one in here, but your attendance is very much appreciated and goes a long way to us and the TPD family. Thank you so much.